Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Finn React. Now, a while back we did talk about Big Bad Beetleborgs and another show which was mentioned in the video that was on Saturday mornings on Kids WB or Fox Kids, VR Troopers. Now, if you guys don't know, I recommend going to the Finn Gaming channel. My editor decided to put that link somewhere around here. I played the Sega Genesis game. It was terrible, but the show was actually pretty good. So let's see what Japan did that we stole yet again from to make more entertainment. Let's check out. If you guys haven't yet, guys, please subscribe to Secret Galaxy, where he does a lot of good content. I will put his link at the end where you can find him.
What if Frankenstein, the monster, not the doctor, was actually a success? And by success, I mean came to life, was totally cool, people genuinely liked him. So the doctor decided to create another monster, but this time using more parts than before, totally misunderstanding what made the original creation a success in the first place. Not the quantity of parts, but how well they fit together. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of VR Troopers.
And fun fact, I will have to say, VR Troopers intro, one of my top favorite intros back in the day for the 90s. Memorable, danceable. We are not dancing to it. Unless you guys want to see that, then I'll do a short video of me dancing to it. Give this video 100 likes, and we'll dance.
Thank you to Unbounce for sponsoring this video. Unbounce is the leading landing page builder platform that helps you convert more visitors into leads, sales, and customers. Where would any of us be without customers? Unbounce Conversion Intelligence enhances your marketing intuition with AI insights to ensure the best campaign performance every time, every single time. But Dan, what does that even mean? Well,
yeah.
You can build beautiful, high-converting landing pages with no coding required. With their easy drag-and-drop builder and all-you-can-eat buffet of 100-plus landing page templates, you can bring
all right, editor, speed this up.
In a fraction of the time.
You can earn up to 30% more conversions with their latest AI-powered feature, Smart Traffic. And not for nothing, but Unbounce is the #1 landing page platform for over 15,000 brands, including Zola, Later, and Hootsuite. Thank you again to Unbounce for sponsoring this video. Click the link below or go to unbounce.com/toygalaxy and use promo code TOYGALAXY to get 20% off your first 3 months. That's unbounce.com/toygalaxy and use promo code TOYGALAXY for 20% off or click that link below.
VR Troopers is a live-action superhero television series that ran for 92 episodes over 2 seasons from 1994 to 1996.
Yes.
It is related to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the same way fettuccine alfredo is related to macaroni and cheese.
Wait, did he just compare macaroni and cheese to fettuccine alfredo? In a way, yes, but two different dishes. Mostly different cheeses that they use. Well, maybe. Anyway, now I'm getting a little hungry again. Continue on, VR Troopers.
Fair warning, I wrote this script while I was waiting for dinner. Ryan Steele, Caitlin Starr, and J.B. Reese are 3 late-stage teenagers. I don't want to say with attitude, but they are certainly attitude-prone.
That's true, they were.
In a place called Crossworld City, California, which is practically... It is based on a real city in California, even though it isn't a real city in California. All 3, along with...
If they're teenagers, too, it's kind of the theory I had a while back with Power Rangers. Are they technically high schoolers that are able to drive, or are they technically people that... Were they not... They never explained if anyone had a license, I don't remember, but... Anyway, continue on.
His dog Jeb hang out, train, and sometimes work at Tao's Dojo, the local karate academy run by their friend and sensei Tao Chong. Caitlin...
Fun fact, Tao Chong also was in a secret pilot episode where it didn't involve any of those 3, and the main hero was actually played by Jason David Frank. First of all, 07, because I think it's actually close to the anniversary of his death, but a legend, Power Ranger legend, died about a year or 2 ago, so 07, Jason David Frank.
at a local newspaper called the Underground Voice Daily, where her work frequently finds her exposing billionaire developer Carl Zichter's attempts to remake Crossworld City one building at a time.
I don't still understand the method of why he wore a sailor's cap. It was the weirdest thing I found on the show.
10 years ago, Ryan's father, Tyler Steele, disappeared while conducting some top-secret research into virtual reality. Virtual reality, it turns out, is not what we have understood it to be. It's more like an alternate reality.
Not like the stuff that we have nowadays, where PlayStation and Meta Horizon, we have the VRs and all that stuff. Completely different.
Reality is a parallel dimension full of mutant robots that are trying to find a way into our dimension to take over. Hell of a thing. One day,
I don't get it.
JB and Caitlin are summoned to a secret laboratory wherein the near-life holographic artificial intelligence Professor Horatio Hart resides. It's so much like the real thing in just about every detail, almost as good as the actual man himself. In life, Horatio Hart was a friend and collaborator of Ryan's father, Tyler. Horatio tells the story of Tyler's work into the internet.
He looks very familiar. Hold on a second. I want to say that the guy from VR Troopers looks very familiar. Yeah, Julian Combs. That's what I was going to say. Julian Combs, he had to appear in other things, I think. Anything famous that... He looks very familiar. That's the problem. He looks very familiar. Oh, no, he was only in VR Troopers. Why did I think he looked familiar in other... forget it. I was going to say he looks very familiar in other stuff, but now for some reason he only appeared like in two things. A thing called Jelly Scream, which I never heard of. Anyway...
ramifications of the highly advanced virtual reality work that he was conducting.
And what's really funny is that no one really talked about the girl from VR Trooper of her cuteness. No one really compared her to Kimberly because, well, Kimberly back then was the 90s waifu we wanted to be with. But she might be up there somewhere. Did you guys like her? Yes or no? Comment below.
Resulted in Tyler's disappearance and, essentially, Horatio's rebirth as a digital entity
Horatio,
being called Grimlord, breached the reality barrier that keeps the two dimensions separate. Professor Hart is, for all intents and purposes, the Zordon of the series. He provides Ryan, JB, and Caitlin with information as well as new battle suits and vehicles and weapons they will need in the fight against Grimlord, the evil ruler of the virtual reality dimension. Because the fight has already begun, evil is on the verge of making sufficient gains. Spoiler alert, Grimlord is Carl Zichter, and he is preparing the way on both sides of the reality barrier for a full invasion of his entire army. Ryan, the leader and most disciplined martial artist, JB, the science and computer whiz, and Caitlin, the photographer and journalist, must utilize their new virtualizer pendants, say the words Trooper Transform, and become VR Troopers.
Which is also a fun fact because also Caitlin was I was going to say, Caitlin to me, she had the potential, but I think because the show only lasted about, they said 92 episodes with 2 seasons, it just didn't really... She didn't really prominent that people said compared to someone like Kimberly. But it's actually quite funny too. I actually think we still do. We have ornaments of VR Troopers that we hang up every year. And to me, that's just memories that I still enjoy because that's the one thing of VR Troopers that I still remember to this day. Other than the video game, which we do not have to talk about. Because if you guys still enjoy it, once again, I recommend either checking out the link at the end, or you can find my other channel of Finn Gaming, where I played VR Trooper and a bunch of other Power Ranger games and other stuff. I recommend subscribing. This channel's doing a little bit better than the other, and I want to have an even space. Let's end 2024 on a good note, people.
Guardians of the reality barrier, it's going to take everything they have to fight for this dimension and, with any luck, find Ryan's father. VR Troopers was produced by Saban Entertainment in cooperation with Toei Company and Cybertron. It premiered in the US in September of 1994, just a year after the previous collaboration between Saban and Toei, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was pretty much an overnight success. Saban's production had successfully utilized licensed footage, costumes, and props from an existing Japanese television show called Kyoryū Sentai Juranger. Recut it with
Juranga! Sorry. I feel like every time we talk about Juranger, I just have to sing the song. All the people that comment will probably do the same thing. I hope so. Oh, but not the weird one that does. Anyway.
Script, American actors, and new branding, the whole equaling far more than the sum of its parts.
But the problem was also, and I discovered this too, that the season 2 and 3, mostly season 2, the Rangers are completely different. And that's what the one thing is interesting that they had to go on after when they started doing season 2. Because when we had footage, we had the footage of the other next series of Rangers that were in Japan. So we couldn't use it, so we had to find a way to figure everything out.
With the formula in hand, Saban's team raced to replicate the success with a second project. Power Rangers was a quick and cost-efficient way to produce a show, but there was no way to know how long the window of opportunity would remain open with the American audience, nor could they stop any other studios from doing the same thing with other Japanese shows. Hello. The first draft of VR Troopers was a show called Psycon. The character of Adam Steele would merge with a cyborg called Psycon, as opposed to being inside a high-tech battlesuit.
Yes.
Grimlord was Cyrus Riker instead of Carl Zichter, and he commanded an army of Cyberdrones. Cyrus's son Percy and Adam had a Karate Kid Johnny versus Daniel type relationship. The focus was singular. No JB, no Caitlin. Tao Chong is still there as a mentor, but we only have one hero to worry about, only one show to borrow footage from. That concept evolved into a show called Cybertron. Yes, just like the planet where the Transformers are from. No, not related in any way. Yes, it would have been challenged by Hasbro even then. In this version, Adam Steele was played by Jason David Frank.
That's exactly what I was talking about. And the fact that it didn't really last I think it only lasted like half a season.
Be pulled from Chojinki Metalda or Superhuman Machine Metalda. Your pronunciation.
Jason David Frank!
Again, a singular character
my hero!
From war drones led by Grimlord. Grimlord is Cyrus Richter in our world. He has a son named Percy who is in a Karate Kid, Johnny versus Daniel type relationship. Tao Chong is back. Tao has a daughter named Mia, and this version has its own bulk and skull in news reporters Elmo and Scuzzy. Professor Hart looked more like Albert Einstein and was programmed by Ryan's father. Some of this version persists to this day on copies of the official Power Rangers fan club video, where the CG Einstein version of Hart is still used, and of course you can watch it here on YouTube. VR Troopers was produced in a similar manner to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Borrow existing footage from Toei shows, recut, recast, redub, rebrand. In this case, Season 1 featured footage from two different shows, 1987's Superhuman Machine Metalda and 1986's Dimensional Warrior Spielbahn. The rainbow-colored superhero shows that Power Rangers were based on are part of a series called Super Sentai. That series had been running for almost 20 years at the time. Each year, the series reboots.
Which really actually kind of funny, too. I remember those. I don't remember anything at all that they used in the American version of the Riders. Because, well, once again, I don't think it was the idea the American came up with. But I remember actually having those little toy things. So, kind of a spark of memories.
Names, themes, narratives, costumes, actors, robots, and everything else. Each show produced around 50 episodes per year. While there was plenty of material to draw from, Saban needed something that was similar to Super Sentai, but visually distinct. Saban picked Metal Heroes. Metal Heroes, like Super Sentai, was a subgenre of tokusatsu programs on Japanese television. Tokusatsu roughly translates to special effects. It applies to all kinds of live-action shows from Godzilla to Ultraman to Super Sentai to Kamen Rider.
If you guys want to see me do things on Metal Hero, please let me know in the comments below. I know you guys have been saying things that you wanted to see stuff like Ultraman and Godzilla and all that stuff. I will do it. Just as not reminder, because I try to write the stuff down, guys, but I also want to get your input. Please let me know if you want to see stuff like this. I know it's kind of weird for someone like me, who probably has maybe half the knowledge learning from this stuff compared to everyone else who's already at the top of the cup of ideas, but just we'll all work together in it somewhat.
Metal Hero shows generally focus on a singular hero utilizing highly advanced technology in a Space Ranger military or police capacity. The series began in 1982 with Space Sheriff Gavon. It was followed in 1983 by Space Sheriff Sherivan, and in 1984 by Space Sheriff Scheider. Space Sheriff Scheider would actually be used as Ryan Steele's Season 2 suit, making it the oldest footage in active use for a Saban production at the time. When VR Troopers was being produced, Spielban and Matalda were already 7 and 8 years old, respectively. Scheider footage would be a full decade, and it shows.
It's VR Troopers!
Reality.
Caitlin Starr, J.B. Reese team up to battle the treacherous Darkheart. He attacks in the Skyborg jet, firing a mega missile. Oh, brutal.
Not the dog.
No match for the troopers. Armored up, they soar in on a VR turbo cycle.
Totally virtual.
Team up with the troopers, Saban's VR Troopers. Each sold separately.
Never had the toys, by the way.
Troopers episodes are cobbled together with lots of parts and pieces. The mission was to form one cohesive narrative about a team of heroes using newly shot scenes with American actors and settings, supplemented with action scenes from 3 different shows about individual heroes that never cross over from show to show on the Japanese end. Matalda provided Ryan's suit, Grimlord, and his throne room, as well as his named warriors, but Spielban had JB and Caitlin's battle suits, as well as several other evil minions, the generic Scud troops, and anything involving the sky-based shark cruisers, tanks, and fighter jets. It was a
That's actually kind of interesting, the fact that they did that, too. The fact that they tried to get 3 different shows to work together in America, it actually kind of shows the dedication that Saban had. I mean, as much VR Trooper wasn't a success in comparison to, like, Power Rangers, they're still doing the same concept of taking things from other shows to work. So, hats off to them.
To say the least. See, there's a limited amount of footage for both shows involved in Season 1, and since Ryan's character never appears in any scenes with JB and Caitlin's characters in the original footage, it limits storytelling right out of the gate. Nearly every episode of VR Troopers is compelled to introduce a reason why the team must be split up, so it makes sense that they aren't in the same geographic location.
Now we
if
know.
they aren't split up, well then get ready for some fun. Time for me to put my state college film studies classes to work. I'm no Steven Spielban, but I know a thing or two about continuity in filmmaking. The goal is to make editing invisible to the audience. You don't want each cut from shot to shot, from scene to scene, to take the viewer out of the moment of the action. There are several ways that the locations of characters in a scene, their physical relationship to each other, the relationship to objects or key set pieces, and the overall clear understanding of the action in a scene can be clearly communicated to the viewer. The most common is the 180-degree rule. If 2 characters are talking to each other, one is on the left of the frame, the other is on the right of the frame, and you never switch positions, as if the camera is physically incapable of moving to the opposite angle. It would be confusing to the viewer. Did they actually do a dance move and hastily switch places? Why? Is something else going on out of frame that can't be seen that caused them to switch places? These aren't questions you want your viewer thinking about when they should be in the story. But what do you do when you don't actually have any footage of the characters in the scene together? It's a problem that exists even today in big-budget movies like Captain America: Civil War. You either cut back and forth between shots that are close enough to be convincing, or you invent new material that will fit narratively, even if it doesn't match visually.
Fun fact also, I actually took a filming class in college for like filming and actually like learning about histories of films and movies and all that stuff. So I have the idea, but I actually did go to high school when I was in high school. My 3 years of high school was all telecommunication, digital mass media, where we made videos. And the one thing I would have to say is that I learned so much with doing this stuff that, I mean, I would like to make videos and do stuff for the channels and all that stuff. But at the same time, I wouldn't say a one person doing a bunch of jobs. I mean, it's hard, but yet successful in a way. But, you know, I like the explanation that he does explain because it makes more sense. And it gives a refresh for someone like myself who have done this before. But also at the same time, it gives like knowledge to people who have no idea how filming works. So, hats off.
VR Troopers does both, and it can get very confusing. The result is inconsistent or confusing environments, a feeling of claustrophobia because the camera can't pull back to reorient the geography of the scene because there is no consistent geography, because no one is actually together. The VR Troopers production used a few other tricks. One, they had access to the suits, so there were times where they put the American actors in the suits and show them against a green screen, then superimpose them over whatever footage they needed in the background. It's not a great solution for long shots, but works on shorter shots. Two, shoot as much as you can out of the battle suits. Three, they created a new location called the Battle Grid. When they wanted the entire team to be in a fight together, they wore their special Battle Grid suits and met the enemies in a virtual environment that was basically just a soundstage with flashing lights, curtains, a smoke machine, and fake rocks. The Battle Grid and the Battle Grid suits are a necessary plot contrivance, yes, but they are also either the most insulting, desperate, cheap attempt to skirt around a problem that they created, or an absolute stroke of genius that pushes the show into the realm of genre self-critique, a deconstruction of what it means to be tokusatsu in America and our ability to suspend disbelief when we want to.
But you gotta think about this too, and I kind of think about this in the perspective of filming. Based in the in the 1990s, the fact that we didn't have the technology that we have today, where we can change everything, appearances, all that stuff, we have the ability to nowadays be able to do this. However, back in the day in the 90s, you're relying on things that we had to use for filming. You had to have the amount of video tapes to actually do the filming. You had Panasonic cameras, tripods, and all the stuff just using technology and what we're able to produce with things like light and smoke and fake rocks. A lot of things has changed throughout the time, and I think to me it just shows that there's a big progression between the early 1990s of filmings compared to now. I mean, even when you go back to the 80s and 70s, 60s, and 50s, the production of everything that they use were pretty much either on the spot or what the group can afford. And to me, I think it was very interesting, the fact that we don't think about that. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we had back in the day, we didn't have the CG effects for blood and violence and all that, so we had to rely on using things around things like ground beef, like strawberry syrup, stuff that can resemble human flesh and blood. So, yeah.
I don't want to gloss over this. The Battle Grid suits are just repainted red Power Ranger helmets and spandex bodysuits with patterned fabric stuck to them, intended to invoke their regular cybernetic battle suits. It's the kind...
No offense, dude. This is back in the 1990s where a lot of us at the age of 2 to 8 didn't really pay attention. So, you know what? It's all right.
Thing that I can't be sure is making me angry or jealous. It's the kind of thing we could produce here on this show with our budget that gives me hope that we're closer than we think to Hollywood legitimacy. Unlike Power Rangers, VR Troopers had the benefit of syndication, meaning it was sold to networks who chose to run it, where Power Rangers was broadcast on Fox Kids. This enabled VR Troopers to push the limits of violence more than Power Rangers, albeit violence applied to rubber suit monsters and robotic henchmen. VR Troopers featured Brad Hawkins as Ryan Steele. He would go on to voice the first Gold Ranger on Power Rangers Zeo a year after VR Troopers ended, and since then has kept himself busy with voice acting in games and a lot of redubbing Japanese anime.
I didn't think about that, to be honest. But now thinking about it, it makes total sense.
Caitlin was played by Sarah Brown, who also had a small role on Power Rangers Zeo before moving on to lots of other television and movie roles, including stints on General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, and As the World Turns. JB was played by Michael Hollander, who stepped away from acting to pursue a career as an animator for television, movie, and video games.
That's awesome.
Grimlord was played by Gardner Baldwin. Tao was played by Richard Rabago. Jeb the Dog was played by Zeb the Dog and voiced by Kerrigan Mahan, doing a very hammy Jack Nicholson impression. You might recognize Kerrigan as the same person who did the voice for Goldar on Power Rangers.
That makes sense.
VR Troopers music was composed and or produced by Shuki Levy, Ron Wasserman, Kusa Machi, and Jeremy Sweet, basically the same team that did the Power Rangers music. Shuki Levy also directed the first episode of the series. Like Matilda, Scheider, Spielbaum, and Power Rangers, one of the primary goals of VR Troopers was to sell toys. Kenner rolled out a full set of action figures and vehicles in multiple scales with a variety of action features. The basic line of figures stood roughly 5 to 6 inches in height with 4 or 5 points of articulation depending on the character design. Ryan, JB, and Caitlin in their battle suits. Ryan and JB had virtual armor versions with removable armor pieces. They were paired against Grimlord's lieutenants Tankotron, Air Striker, General Ivar, and Darkheart. The VR Troopers were equipped for battle with their battle cruiser, pursuit jet, turbo cycle, fighter bike, and skyborg jet. And I don't want to gloss over this, but they also released super deluxe battle grid suit versions of Ryan, JB, and Caitlin, complete with their spandex bodysuits and repainted Power Ranger
That's
helmets.
cool.
You have to respect the commitment to the bit.
Yes.
And hey, if those figures aren't good enough for you, keep in mind that every Matilda, Spielbahn, or Scheider figure that has ever been released is also a VR Troopers figure, even if it doesn't say so on the package. Just call it VR Troopers and absolutely no one will stop you. In 1995, Marvel Comics released 5 issues of a combined Power Rangers and VR Troopers series. Not that they were in the same stories together, but their stories were in the same books together. One cover on one side, the other cover on the other side. Just flip to the side you want facing out. Creators who worked on the books include legends like Carl Potts, Jimmy Palmiotti, and Fabian Nicieza.
Wow.
The series is not currently available in trades or on Comixology, so hit eBay or the long boxes if you want to read them. The UK audience via Phoenix Press was treated to a series of VR Troopers 3D comics. VR Troopers was featured on the Game Wizard, a handheld game system manufactured by Microgames of America. 3 titles: Ryan's Challenge, JB's Battle, and Jeb's Rescue.
Never had
Sorry,
it.
Caitlin, it was you or the dog.
Well, I think there was. I want to say I don't think there was because they never mentioned it. I thought there was a Tiger Electronic thing of VR Troopers. I know they had the Power Rangers, but I also felt like in the back of my mind they did have a what you call it, a VR Trooper. I could be dead wrong though. The guy hasn't said anything yet, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking Power Rangers. Tiger Electronics. Good and bad.
Wizard was basically a plastic shell that looked conspicuously like Nintendo's Game Boy, but with interchangeable LCD game cartridges reminiscent of Tiger handheld electronic games. Speaking of, Tiger Electronics released a handheld LCD game called VR Troopers When Worlds Collide. 1995.
Also, I was right. Oh my god, I didn't think it was actually real. Wow.
Saw the release of VR Troopers published by Sega.
I'm not going to go on this, guys. I've said this 3 times already. You want to see my frustration about this game? Check the link at the end where you can see my frustration of this game. And here's my opinion why it's bad. The button combos are terrible. I mean, the music is fine. The story is actually alright. The fighting is terrible. And that's pretty much it. I think the button controls were terrible. And you basically are fiddling with your controller until you actually get a combination to work. If you have the turbo controller, you can cheat. Not saying to do it, or I did it, but still, you can cheat and do it that way. But this game was a 2 out of 10, and it belongs on your wall.
Genesis and Game Gear. The virtual fun didn't stop there. In 1994, Milton Bradley released a VR Troopers board game. McDonald's produced a series of 4 toys for their Happy Meals. There were puzzles and party supplies, a VR Troopers lawn sprinkler, trading cards, shirts, Christmas stockings, ornaments, and of course, Pogs, or fun caps, depending on where you're from.
Pogs is the greatest thing in the world. People in the 90s smash the comment below to say Pogs were the shit. Because we all had them. I still have Pogs. You should all send me Pogs. Find online some random Pogs and send me it. Let me live my 90s, please.
Troopers ran into the inevitable wall that all of these series will eventually face. There's no more footage from the original series to use.
Exactly.
In fact, after just 2 seasons of stitching things together to form a new narrative, a lot of the fight scenes and explosions had already been used multiple times. Your only choices are 1. Use the same props and costumes and start shooting your own entirely original scenes. Expensive. 2. Reboot with a new aesthetic, as Power Rangers has successfully done going on 28 years now. Or 3. Cancel and move on to something else. After 92 episodes, that's what happened to VR Troopers. There was no more footage to utilize from Matilda, Spielbahn, or Scheider. Saban was producing other shows like Masked Rider and Big Bad Beetleborgs.
I think if they were able to do it, I think it would have been more successful if they did the remaster stuff with it. I think it had potential. The problem was they were lazy back then, probably. They got the information from Japan and said, you know what? This project sucks. Let's move on. Which is sad.
Rangers had a spectacular big-budget box office feature that, despite the reviews, was a financial success. Some episodes of VR Troopers were released on a series of VHS tapes. In October of 2012, Season 1, Volume 1 was released on DVD by Shout Factory. Season 1, Volume 2 followed in January of 2013. Season 2, Volume 1 hit in May of 2013, and then the rest of it was canceled due to low sales. Until January of 2014, when Season 2, Volume 2 was finally released. You can track those down if you want the security of physical media, or you can purchase them digitally through platforms like Prime Video, iTunes, or Apple TV. You could have watched it on Netflix, but it left in February of 2021. For the diehard fan, I recommend watching it on a browser on your favorite VR headset. There is no current reboot or continuation of VR Troopers. Saban was purchased by Disney. The Power Rangers franchise is owned by Hasbro. VR Troopers as a trademark, per the extent of our research, is currently showing as abandoned. If anyone could revive it at this point, it would likely be Hasbro's production studio, Allspark Entertainment. And while there does not appear to be any movement on that end, it is worth noting that some of the Metal Heroes characters have shown up in recent seasons of Power Rangers. As long as Hasbro has a financial stake in preventing any encroachment on their Power Rangers territory, they will continue to exert their legal rights to reinvent those characters in a proprietary manner to ensure that their Japanese history and identity is never known to American audiences. I may be taking this a little personally. I'm going to take 5, and then we'll do the close.
What is going on?
Legend has it that after VR Troopers was canceled, the cast got together, shared some leisure enhancement beverages, and did a new voiceover track for a montage of scenes from the show. It is not intended for their normal child audience, and as far as I can tell, it's real and available here on YouTube.
Ah, cool.
Fans have kept the legacy of VR Troopers alive, whether it's in the form of homemade virtualizer cosplay props or homage toy designs like Toy Pizza's Meta Ruda Rift Killer action figure. Technically, yes, a Matilda homage, but we covered this before. It counts. VR Troopers is the predictable result of the incredible success of Power Rangers, a show that brought the same energy, the same ingenuity, the same built-in aesthetic to an audience that was absolutely asking for it. More ninjas, more robots, more mutant monsters, more near-future speculative science fiction, more blinking console lights, more floating digital heads, more of everything. Turns out that even though the audience wanted more, there was a limit to how much more. Looking back now, from the future, the show that set the formula, that paved the way, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, was the only one that could transcend the generations. It's possible that somehow, someway, VR Troopers could have been the series to connect with the mainstream audience outside of Japan in a durable, lasting, financially profitable way. Perhaps if we can find the reality barrier, we can build a bridge from there to here, blend the two together, from virtual reality to a mixed reality, where the VR Troopers fight on. Ooh, boy.
I think, to me, VR Trooper had the same kind of situation with Big Bad Billboards. It had potential to go further than it should. However, with the situation of us not having the footage and everything about it, it was just hard to continue on. Something compared to Power Rangers, which we have countless of to this day, and we had the appreciation from Japan with Super Sentai. I think if VR Trooper would have took a different approach, they would have lasted, I think, to me, another 2 seasons. But the problem was, I guess we were just lazy enough not to take any opportunity and say, you know what? Let's do our own footage. Let's create our own monsters. Because we kind of just said, Power Rangers has that under control. We could throw those into the VHS cabinet of forgetfulness. But overall, I did like VR Trooper. The music was fantastic. The characters were kind of like Power Rangers. I mean, Caitlin was alright. JB was alright. Reese was alright. They weren't very, characters I could say, yep, these characters I would watch countless times, just over and over. No, they were just basic. At least in Power Rangers, we had more of a variation of different personalities. All of them, to me, kind of were the same. But I liked the concept and what they were doing. The fact of the matter is that I think, to me, it's kind of good that we didn't continue on. Because I think after Saban was bought by Disney, we all knew that something would have happened. They could have had the same fate as Power Rangers did. But I don't talk about Disney stuff. We move on from the Disney and Nickelodeon stuff and move on. But overall, VR Trooper was a good show. I give it a solid 6 out of 10. There could have been more improvement, but it's what we could do back then. But I'm going to wrap up the episode here, guys. So if you enjoy stuff like this, let me know in the comments below. You want me to react to other things that are involved in the world of Japan, let me know in the comments below. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe to Secret Galaxy. I will put the link to where you can find him below as well. And if you enjoy stuff like this, guys, check out the playlist. Everything so far with my reaction videos of other things that I react to throughout the months that I've been doing YouTube. You can also check out the link where you can find Finn Gaming, where you can enjoy my gaming perspective. And if you enjoy stuff, guys, just keep the channel growing. Subscribe, like, and comment. So, thank you for watching. This is Michael, signing out.